With his movie star good looks, gregarious personality, and stellar two-way play, Peter Zezel was a popular player with Mike Keenan's youthful Philadelphia Flyers teams of the 1980s. Later, Zezel would go on to earn accolades with the St. Louis Blues and would help lead the Toronto Maple Leafs to their best postseason performances in the modern era. But despite this success, Zezel's legacy will always be his decision to choose humanity over hockey in the face of a cruel betrayal by hockey management. This is the inspirational and ultimately heartbreaking story of Peter Zezel, a man whose tremendous talent was surpassed only by his generous soul. Peter Zezel was an outstanding two-sport athlete, excelling in both hockey and soccer during his upbringing in Scarborough, Ontario. He was a member of the Canadian national under-20 soccer team and played in 3 exhibition games for the North American Soccer League's Toronto Blizzard, and later played a season for the North York Rockets of the Canadian Soccer League during his NHL off-season.
Actually, I was a better soccer player than I was a hockey player at the time, and I had a lot of college offerings to go down and play down in the colleges, but the year I got drafted by Philadelphia, that year was I was their first pick, so I figured that I'd have a better chance at having a career in North America playing hockey rather than soccer, which died out pretty well.
Peter was chosen by the Flyers in round 2 of the 1983 NHL entry draft after posting 47 goals and 133 points for the OHL's Toronto Marlboros during the 1983-84 campaign. The following year, he established himself as a regular for the Flyers team that posted the best regular season record in the NHL and advanced to the Stanley Cup Finals. A year later, Zezel's celebrity grew when he landed a small role in a hockey-themed Rob Lowe movie called Youngblood. In 1986-87, Peter continued to progress with a career-high 33 goals and 72 points. He also had a strong playoff as a checking forward, scoring 3 goals and 13 points in a 25-game run that saw the Flyers push the mighty Edmonton Oilers to 7 games in what is considered to be one of the greatest Stanley Cup Finals ever. That year, Zezel also earned a pair of first-place votes for the Selke Trophy, the NHL's award for the top defensive forward. Blessed with almost mythical lower body strength, Peter was difficult to knock off the puck, as Quebec's Dale Hunter learned the hard way.
Zezel picks it off. Boom! He runs right over Hunter and knocks out 2 panes of glass, and Mark went up for Peter Zezel.
Well, they just had that double minor together, Hunter and Zezel, and Hunter was going in there looking to take the body, but Hunter was going in to take Zezel all the way, but Zezel was peeking. He could see him coming, and he braced himself, and boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, there's 2 locomotives that are going to bump.
In an effort to get the most out of Peter, Mike Keenan was especially tough on him, even forcing Peter to dress in the Zamboni room during the 1985 playoffs. Later in his career, however, Keenan would twice acquire Zezel, both with the Blues and Vancouver Canucks, and he always regretted his harsh treatment of Peter as a rookie. Said Keenan, "I would have done things differently with Peter. He was only 18 years old and he had a fragile psyche."
Mike never wants us to give up, never. If someone's playing bad, he'll have a good talk with them and say, we got to get you going or whatever, and he'll give us confidence at that, and I think that's what makes the team.
Journalist and Flyers historian Bill Meltzer remembers Zezel as a big kid at heart. Zezel loved to have a good time and joke around. He was also very soft-hearted and generous. Zezel was especially good with kids and donated considerable time to visiting children's hospitals and staying in touch with the families of seriously ill children. On the ice, however, Zezel and the Flyers began to struggle. After getting off to a slow start in 1988-89, Peter was dealt to the St. Louis Blues in exchange for Mike Bullard. Zezel quickly found a home with Brett Hull on his right wing, and he finished strongly, collecting a career-high 49 assists that season. In 1989-90, he tied his career best with 72 points in 73 games and helped Hull rack up 72 goals.
Zezel avec une belle attaque menée avec Paul McLean et Brin d'Amour. Zezel est seul et goal!
Brett Hull credited Zezel for much of his success and begged Blues GM Ron Caron to keep him. But in July 1990, Zezel was traded to the Washington Capitals with Mike Lawler for Jeff Courtnall. And after a brief injury-plagued stint with the Capitals, he was traded with Bob Rouse to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for Al Iafrate. With the hometown Leafs and the teams that followed, Zezel settled into the role of defensive-minded center and reliable face-off man. The Leafs had some great success during Zezel's stay, including coming one game away from the Stanley Cup Finals in 1993. Zezel was a big hit with Leaf fans and was well respected among his teammates.
And he ripped one in on the boards for Burke, coming in on the goaltender. It's Zezel scores! And the Leafs win in overtime with 3:05 left in the...
In the mid-90s, Zezel bounced around from the Dallas Stars back to the Blues and then to the New Jersey Devils before being acquired by the Vancouver Canucks in February 1998. On the day Zezel was traded to Vancouver, he learned that his sister Nada's 2.5-year-old daughter Jillian was diagnosed with cancer. Before his first Canucks game, Peter wrote Jillian's name on his stick and promptly scored on his first shift. To fully appreciate the depth of Peter's character, it's instructive to look back at the events that transpired prior to the trade to Vancouver. Zezel had been banished to the AHL Albany River Rats by Devils GM Lou Lamoriello. It seemed that Peter's NHL career was over. But Peter worked hard in Albany, racked up 50 points in just 35 games, and was selected to play the AHL All-Star Game. Now, the game took place on the same day he was traded to Vancouver and the same day he had learned about Jillian, but despite having no obligation to play in the game, he arrived in time to suit up for the Canadian All-Stars and scored the game-winning goal in an 11-10 victory. He was chosen as the game's most valuable player. According to Peter, he played out of respect to the Albany organization, who helped him work his way back to the NHL. In Vancouver, Zezel would reunite with Mike Keenan and played an important role with the Canucks. However, when Brian Burke took the reins as Canucks GM, Keenan was eventually fired and Zezel's role was greatly reduced. In January 1999, Zezel was injured and took leave from the Canucks to accompany Jillian and her family on a trip to Disney World. In March 1999, Zezel asked Burke to either let him finish the season in Vancouver or trade him to an East Coast team so he could be close to Jillian, who did not have long to live. Burke's response was to trade Zezel to the West Coast and the Anaheim Ducks, the location furthest away from Jillian. Zezel retired rather than report and returned home to Scarborough to be with Jillian and her family. At first, an angry Burke threatened to suspend Zezel, but after a public outcry, the deal was voided. The Canucks, clearly embarrassed by Burke's insensitivity, bought out Peter's contract and donated $110,000 to the Canucks Foundation for terminally ill children.
Jillian is a great kid and a special kid, said Peter, who was never married and had no children of his own. If I didn't come home now, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life.
Jillian passed away peacefully a few weeks after Peter's arrival. Zezel never returned to the NHL, opting to be with his family in Ontario. He played senior hockey and coached youth hockey and soccer, and ran a successful hockey school in Toronto.
Tragically, in 2001, Zezel himself fell ill. It was diagnosed with a rare and incurable blood disorder that destroyed red blood cells faster than the body could replace them. He battled this energy-sapping disease for several years, enduring chemotherapy and even having his spleen removed. All the while, he tried his best to keep up his sports camps. Unaware of his situation, many fans were shocked to see that the heavily medicated Zezel had become bloated and obese. On May 26, 2009, Peter's organs began to fail. He lapsed into a coma, was taken off life support, and passed away. Peter Zezel was just 44 years old. He was laid to rest at Pine Hills Cemetery in Scarborough. In 2014, friends and NHL teammates Wendell Clark and Mark Osborne helped the city of Scarborough honor Zezel at a street naming ceremony in his honor.
He was the hometown guy that loved playing in Toronto when he got here and loved being back home, being in his comfort zone. This was his comfort zone here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there's a way.
Peter Zezel's legacy can best be captured by his grieving but proud mom in this 2010 interview. The Pro Hockey Alumni is dedicated to promoting and celebrating the legends who made the game great. Here are 2 more videos created for those who love the history of the game.